Hi, everybody. Sorry we have to do the remote lesson today, but the good news is you're just going to be able to watch this, answer like 3 questions, and then move on. So I'll post this into Canvas just as soon as my computer's done converting it into a video. Today we are talking about Judaism. That is the religion and faith of Jewish people, the Jews, however you want to describe this various group of people. I'm going to try to go through this fairly quickly so as to, make sure that you can hold your interest, but also so that you have some time to go outside or, play video games or whatever on Friday. All right, Judaism. Is the world's oldest monotheistic religion. That is to say, Judaism believes that there is only one God. There's a lot of other religions that believe in many different gods. Judaism is the oldest one. Whether or not it's the first is something we aren't going into because you know how I feel about talking about religion on the internet. It is the oldest religion, though, that is still practiced that only has one God. Judaism's holy book is called the Torah, and it features a set of religious laws as well called the Talmud, which govern things like dress and diet for Jews who practice. Some of you may be aware, for example, Jews can't eat pork. That is in both the Torah and the Talmud. The Talmud also covers a lot of other stuff. Judaism starts in Mesopotamia, one of those river valley civilizations, with the earliest historically confirmable date being 1200 BCE. Jewish texts actually say that Judaism is older than that and go back quite literally to the creation of the earth, but once again, this is not a religions course. I am not trying to convert you to anything, so we're just going to say that the earliest confirmable date is 1200 BCE, and I'm going to hope that you don't yell at me because I said that. All right. The history of Judaism begins with a guy named Abraham. Abraham is the founder or father of Judaism. Abraham is monotheistic, and his descendants are considered to be a part of what's called a covenant. That is a sacred agreement, a holy agreement between Abraham and God himself. And yes, Jewish texts do refer to God with masculine pronouns, so we're going to use that one. The Jews believe, again, religion, I ain't asking you to agree with it. I am telling you what the Jews believe, that they are a chosen people by God, and that they are promised the land now known as Israel by God. And Judaism is originally associated with both Abraham and his tribe, the Hebrews. Um, Judaism is explicitly what is called an ethnic religion. What I mean by that is some of you may have heard Judaism described not just as a religion, but as an ethnicity. That's not necessarily correct, but it's also not necessarily wrong. Judaism is very hard for us who grew up in somewhere like the United States to really understand easily because you can be from outside the Jewish community and convert to Judaism, but a lot of Jewish people do so or are born into the tradition rather than convert. Which brings me to this slide, which I kind of previewed for you. Is Judaism an ethnicity or a religion or both? In our class, we will be referencing Judaism as a faith. If you don't practice Judaism and you wanted to, you could climb into a car, drive to the local synagogue, and start the conversion process today. With that said, um, there's also a big ethnic component. When we refer to how the Jews or Hebrews are treated as an ethnicity, whether it's in the Middle Ages where they're going to be persecuted, or in Nazi Germany where they're going to be persecuted, or in Soviet Russia where they're going to be persecuted, or by the Romans where they're going to be persecuted, Jewish history isn't very happy, if you hadn't noticed. We will make that distinction. On a personal level, please stop describing people as looking Jewish, because you wouldn't describe somebody as looking Christian, or at least you shouldn't, unless they are wearing a t-shirt that says, "Hi, I practice Christianity." Okay? So please remember that you cannot treat somebody, you cannot tell somebody's faith simply by their physical appearance. Please remember that. If you don't learn anything else today, please remember that. Okay, as for the physical location, the Jews supposedly settled in Israel for a time, went to Egypt, left Egypt in an event known as the Exodus, and then arrived back in Israel where they settled for a time. Um, I am mentioning these events because if you practice Judaism or Christianity or Islam, those events are mentioned and are very specifically stated in the various holy books of those faiths. We don't have direct historical or archaeological evidence for these events, so quite frankly, as you can see with my little parenthetical down at the bottom, this is a matter of faith. I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. I am merely telling you what we do know, what we don't know, and what literally billions of people believe. Okay? Let's move on. All right. Judaism was located pretty much exclusively in Israel until the 700s and 500s BCE, when the Assyrians and Babylonians, who we vaguely mentioned back in Mesopotamia, conquered the region. Foreign conquests, which intensified in the other years, foreign conquests led to the deportation of Jewish elites and the establishment of Jewish communities well outside of the Middle East. So Judaism was spread by foreign conquest. You have to know that. Judaism has been a scattered religion since that Assyrian conquest. The Assyrians conquered the northern kingdom of Israel and started pulling Jews out of their homeland and sending them elsewhere. It is very important that you know that sort of thing. All right. We are kind of fast forwarding here. After the Persian Empire conquered Mesopotamia, they allowed Jews to return to their homeland. Some of them did, some of them didn't. Guys, Jewish communities have existed in the Far East for longer than you would think. There are Jews in India, there are Jews in Pakistan, there are Jews in Iran. There aren't many of them, but they do exist. In a few days, we'll talk about the Persian Empire as well as the conquest of Alexander the Great. But Israel will come under control of a group called the Seleucids. They're going to revolt and establish their own independent state for a little while. But here's where we need to resume. In 63 BCE, Rome conquers the region now known as Israel. Back then it was called Judea, and it absorbs the region into the Republic as a client state. We'll talk about Rome in the future as well. I just want you to know that for right now, the Jews are being conquered by and are under the thumb of the Romans. And the Jews and Romans almost immediately hate one another. The Jews thought that the Romans were just a bunch of pagans who were polytheists and worshiped false gods and were doing all these horrible, immoral things that I can't describe to you on a video that I'm posting with a tag that it's not, or that it is for children. And the Romans thought that the Jews were boring and followed all these bland laws and didn't know how to have fun, and they didn't eat bacon and all this sort of stuff. The result is that the Jews and Romans fight each other kind of a lot. There are 3 Jewish rebellions. You don't need to write the dates, but if you're curious, they happen in 66, 115, and 132 CE. They all fail, and near the end, as you can see in the image here, the Jewish temple is actually sacked, and a lot of the good stuff is hauled off to Rome to be either melted down into gold bars or just outright displayed in like museums. After those last revolts, Jews find themselves scattered everywhere. They form small communities in various trade routes, but today, as you can see on the map, you can find Jews all over the globe. With that said, Judaism is an incredibly small religion compared to the other faiths that we talk about in this class. There's only about 14.5 million Jews on the planet right now, which, to put that into perspective, there's more Californians than there are Jewish people. Why do I bring this up at all? Why would we learn about this? Well, I'll answer that question, but first we got to figure out why Judaism has stayed small. And the answer to that is Judaism does let you convert, but it doesn't send out missionaries. You have never been sitting at home and had a Jewish person knock on your door and try to convert you to the Jewish faith. People are either born Jewish, which they can continue to follow or choose to reject, or they convert voluntarily. But missionaries, not a thing, and conversion by conquest, also not a thing. So Judaism has stayed a very small faith. Some of you may be asking a very obvious question now. Why then did we spend this time, 11 minutes now, learning about the Jews? Here is the answer. Judaism is comparatively small, but it has had a massive impact on world history. Don't get me wrong, we'll talk about the Jews themselves in various cultures throughout this class, but the biggest impact that Judaism has made is the idea of monotheism. Specifically, the idea of a single, all-powerful God who can do anything, who has clearly laid out rules, makes a structured and organized faith. Other monotheistic faiths, who we're going to look at in our next two lessons, are going to encourage conversion and are going to establish themselves as the largest and second largest religions in the world. And those are going to be Christianity and Islam, both of which can trace their roots directly back to Judaism. All right, guys, a few questions posted onto the canvas. Answer those, type them in, send them to me, and that will be that. Okay, we'll see you later.